Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here, Sonic Tonic Experience. My name's Darren Kramer. This is an exciting episode. I'm really looking forward to speaking with my friend and former UM alum, Andy Middleton. Andy, thanks so much for being here and making the time.
My pleasure, Darren. Really my pleasure. Glad to be here.
This is exciting, and I'm so glad we were able to make it work out. Andy is living and working in Vienna, Austria, and so we had to deal with the time change, and but we made it happen, and technology was the answer, right?
Yes, and a little human ingenuity.
Yes, it's this is going to be really fun. We're going to cover a lot of really passionate topics for both of us, including music, music education, and our favorite beverages, and really one of the most important things is our love for the earth and nature and animals. And Andy is a real passionate environmentalist, and I think that's really important. So that's the kind of stuff we feature here on Sonic Tonic. It was so fun when my dad and I were on a Eastern European river cruise, and started off in Vienna, and I'm like, Andy, we got to connect. So we made it happen, and then that was so fun seeing the school and everything. And then one of the coolest things was that then I was telling you, man, we're gonna go check out Mahler. Is my favorite classical composer, and I was just like, Vienna equals Mahler to me. And I'd been to Vienna a couple times before, but I was like, I'm gonna go find his grave, and I gotta experience this just as a little quest for myself. And as soon as I mentioned to you, oh yeah, you got to take this train to this station and da 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 da, and you had it all set up, and meanwhile we're sipping coffee and eating apple strudel. I'm going, come on, man, this is great.
Yeah,
that was almost 2 years ago already.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Vienna is an amazing place. There's a very funny quote attributed to Mahler, which does reflect the character of Vienna. He says, when the end of the world arrives, I'm going to go back to Vienna because everything there happens 50 years late. And Vienna is an interesting thing because it's very, very modern, but it's also very traditional. In fact, all of Austria is like that. I've been here 14 years now. And at the beginning, I was so aware of the similarities with American culture, and the differences have become very, very apparent. American culture is essentially a transplanted and varied version of the European cultures, but it's a charming and beautiful and fantastic place to live. And especially in Corona times, I am so glad to be here.
How has it been to be an expat? How have you been received, and how was the adjustment in the first year?
That's it's an interesting question. Vienna is, especially the jazz world, is a kind of, I'll use the term old boys network. And the people are delightful. But for some reason, I'm not, I was never really, I didn't want to be part of the, hey, let's play in a big band kind of scene. And I didn't want to play commercial music. And I came in here as the guy from New York, recording artist, touring guy. And I don't really know what people think of me, but Fritz Power is a name that's not so well known. But after Joe Zawinul, Fritz Power was the Austrian jazz musician. In fact, he was, Zawinul recommended him to Cannonball. When Zawinul went to play with Miles, he told Cannonball to get this guy Fritz, but Fritz didn't want to move to the United States. So Fritz has been a power for jazz for a long time, and I played in his band. And my wife Sheila had a duo with him also. And so we were on stage at Porgy and Bess, and Fritz said this beautiful thing. He said, Andy Middleton's the best thing that happened to Vienna in the last 50 years. Wow, that's super nice. Thank you, Fritz. But on the other hand, I have this image of, it's like I walked into a room with all the jazz musicians sitting around in a circle facing inwards. They all turned and looked at me. Some of them said hi. Fritz said, "Hey, great to see you." But all the rest of them turned back towards the center. And exactly. And, I don't take it personally. I just see it as, and I think um, a lot of small places are like that, where we got to take care of our own, and jazz is actually quite fractured in Europe, just like in the United States. I mean, all the major cities have their scenes, but only when you reach a certain place in terms of renown do the Chicago guys know the New York guys, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so there's some astoundingly good musicians in Poland, in Hungary, in Slovakia, in Italy, of course. But most of the top Austrian jazz musicians don't know those guys unless they play with them. So in a way, it's been good for me, because I play with the guys in Poland, Hungary, Italy, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Germany, Switzerland, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark. That's what's great about being here, is I get to play with all those guys.
Sonic Tonic is about, though, is like saying being in the moment, but also being open, trying to grow, and notice how many more commonalities we have between us instead of these differences, and kind of open yourself up and try to disregard some of your past prejudices and go, well, that kind of brought you to here, but maybe I love Ben Hardy. He's a guy I've been reading a lot of in the last 2 years, and he's saying, live as your future self, think as your future self. Who do you want to be? So it's that thing of, instead of judging someone from your old thoughts, maybe try to just have a clean slate every day, meditate, have your juice, feel good about yourself, and then go, what can I learn today?
Yeah. Well, I think as musicians, we have a special gift and obligation to ourselves. We wake up every day, and when we approach our musical project, whatever it might be, playing the saxophone, learning this tune, learning this repertoire for this gig, composing something, creating a curriculum, whatever. We actually, the way I look at it, I look at what I cannot yet do, and I then therefore take steps to develop and to become better. And I think there are many people who don't have the opportunity to see themselves in that light, and don't pursue a lifelong course of growing and developing, because I think it's a spiritual, emotional, human, social, musical, physical connection that that keeps getting better. And lately I've been saying, wow, every single day of my life has been amazing. Of course, there's been some really, really scary, frustrating, depressing, sad, failure days. But, if you don't know what black is, how do you know what white is? If you don't know what up is, how do you know what down is? And so all of those are informing, or let's say enriching, the fact that there are quite a lot of days where I had successes, I had artistic satisfaction, I had a great day, whatever. But unless I have that balance, I didn't really live. And so I can just say, okay, hey, instead of calling this good and that bad, I'm just going to say, this is life.
Everything's happening for you and not to you. So each time you're running across this, whoa, how awesome. I got a flat tire today. I was supposed to stop and think about this and do this other thing. It's happening for you as a guide, as a way to learn. And if you embrace that, boy, it really changes your perspective.
That's great. I remember reading about some guy who somebody stole his stereo or something like that. And instead of being angry, he said, well, I guess they needed it more than I do. And I was like, how do you do that? You know, how do you, but that's a great way to put it. So that, yes, life doesn't happen to me. Life happens for me. Or another way to put it, which I think gives everybody who wants to think this way more self actualization power. If you say, I attract with my thinking the events in my life, and if I then take responsibility for this being in my life, then I know that I can either bring more of that or I can change it.
You're in charge. However, you got to let it unfold.
Yes.
In any case, don't take the victim mentality
Right.
And have this everything's, why is everyone against me? What? Nothing's going right. The more you think that, the more that happens. So it's like,
but those are great tunes, right? Everything happens to me, and do 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 do.
But there, leave it to a musician. You just brought it back to the musical realm here. We're going back.